steal cheese. Can't catch me. I 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 steal cheese. Can't catch me.
Used to look like this, but now they look like this. Or when diamonds used to actually be useful. And these are the downgrades, both big and small, that have happened in Minecraft. But first, we got another downgrade to talk about. Since remember when the subscribe button used to be red? Yeah, I missed that too, surprisingly. But you can actually fix that still. Since when you subscribe, it'll turn rainbows for a split second. So watch closely, try for yourself. Thank you. Helps out a ton. Suppose finding out that Minecraft isn't infinite is already a letdown. Sure enough, if you go 30 million blocks in any direction, you're gonna find out there is something that stops it. What is it in recent versions? The world border. Just some far side to how interesting this used to be back in the older versions. Okay, since back in beta versions, you could have found something called the Farlands, which the fact that it's still a Minecraft legend and most players have come in after you throw around speaks to how cool they are. It's an important part of the game's history, and it's unfortunate that it's left in this cracked version, a lot of which are hard to play these days. Sometimes there's a coding error and it's just packed out. The communities, it was a downgrade. I like the fact that there's mods that bring this back in recent versions, speaking to the fact that if it was added back in, it wouldn't be a letdown. So many players still play on version 1.8.9. Now, it's not because they don't like the light trails, definitely not because they don't like the sniffer. The real reason is that with the combat update, Minecraft's combat changed a lot. Whether it changed to the better, it's a matter of interpretation. And while I do think that there's arguments to be made that we shouldn't be spam clicking and instead it was over to a one-product method, the idea that you're no longer able to block the swords like in the past, that's something that I do miss. Granted, shields were added in, but considering the fact that Mojang's still looking into making combat changes in later experimental snapshots, I think it's safe to say that even they realize that you didn't hit the nail on the head with this update yet. It's not like it exactly made more balanced either. Now stone axes do more damage than diamond swords. So there was a new meta, but it's a better meta. A lot of fans are clearly very excited when we got the Caves and Cliffs update that changes to our world generation. And as we should be, it made the game a lot more impressive to play around with. But not every change in the game's world generation does that sometimes. And 1.8, a lot of players are not a fan of how the new worlds look. The plains biome became incredibly flat. There's little no variation between the blocks or the height. And what was even worse is you have to have the misfortune to spawn in the middle of the ocean. When you don't have any trees nearby to get you off the survival island, you might as well just stream your seed. And for a while, the ocean would be a death sentence without boats. And back then, boats weren't exactly easy to row around in either. And so it's amazing to see how far we've come in our world generation since then. After all, a big part of how you play the game just comes down to the seed that you're given. So when so many of them ended up being rotten, you can see how this is a pretty town for what we're looking for. And well, the Caves and Cliffs update did obviously make the world a lot prettier to look at, and now make them faster to look at. And ever since about 1.18, for those of us on Java Edition, performance has taken a huge dive. Sure, the world looked a lot more impressive, but now you just get to enjoy them in slideshow edition. That's fun. I reckon so many players have to play with something like Opera, Sodium to play the game, that's pitiful. And I get it, Mojang's split between two different versions for optimization, but there's clearly options out there that can make this playable. It's a shame that none of those made it into the base game. And instead, it seems like they just keep updating the game until all of us are eventually forced over to these third-party options anyway. Before we had Roblox, we used to have top blocks, which functionally were the same thing, just a different name. But all so in different colors as well. And while some of the color types have remained the same, I mean, we have the blue wool, the same that we have blue cloth, the different shades of those colors have been lost. And I think that's unfortunate. I mean, builders are always looking for more blocks to be able to build with, so getting rid of any of them really seems like a rough thing. And if there was some way to craft the wool blocks, or maybe even dye them into these colors and newer versions, I think a lot of players would be a lot happier. At least for Pixel, it would be nice to have a whole bunch of new shades. Just saying. Minecraft isn't a scary game, but here's how it got so much darker after 1.19. And no, it's not because of the ancient cities or the actual darkness effects of the different Nordic. It actually comes down to the game's files. Specifically, you're not allowed to do with them. See, prior to version 1.19, we were building the game's options text file, and ourselves, we use our gamma past its regular. So instead of having the brightness of 100, we can basically give ourselves permanent filter. But now that's just not the case. Because nowadays, you're just going to be stuck in the top brightness. It's pretty disappointing. It's because someone who likes to record videos at full brights that you actually see it on the screen. It's unfortunate having to go and find a secondary mod to be able to do this. Is it a major inconvenience? No, we're going for the mods anyway. But I also think that if you own the game, you should be allowed to do it what you want. It's pretty obvious you're not doing something intended if you're going to change your file. I'll just code it out. Now, when you play Minecraft, you're probably not using the force very much. Ever since the Elytra, these have not seemed like the best improvement in Minecraft. And while that itself is a downgrade, it seems like Mojang's done kicking the horse when it's dead. Since in between updates, Mojang actually changed the horse model to make it look a lot less detailed. And now if you take a look at the hooves of the horse, the actual snout, you realize it's quite a bit different. Now compared to the skeleton horse, actually they've got upgraded how it looks. And it seems even sadder. Now I'm not saying they should have looked exactly how they looked in Mill Breeders, because that's a little too comprehensive a texture for Minecraft, especially back then. But I don't get why they choose to change the look this way. It just feels weird. If you used to play Minecraft back in the beta versions, then you're used to your hotbar looking a lot different. Then before beta version 1.8, hotbar did not exist at all. Instead, it's just helping to regenerate. And of course, since the game's full release, we only had Thunder Bar for regeneration. Which, I'll be honest, to see how quickly we were able to heal in some of these old examples, it does kind of feel like I'm missing out. Add on to that the fact that Minecraft does not incentivize you to play around with different foods you eat, get golden carrots, and get cooked for life. I think there's more to do here than what's actually added in. While we're at it, I also miss the old cooked pork texture. But that I will fully admit is just nostalgia talking. And I like outlines. Now, when you think of changes to Minecraft's cave generation, you're probably also thinking about the caves and cliffs update. Which, don't get me wrong, that did that. Well, it was obviously a very popular change. Because also, it was the way the cave generation changed after 1.7.2, which caused a lot of players to not like how it was anymore. The older caves were confusing, but there was definitely a lot more to do. No one was calling them boring, they were called the Swiss cheese. And I think that gives you a pretty good idea how intricate they were. And in fairness, caving kind of has to be interesting, because the only alternative is branch mining, and that is much more boring than any kind of Swiss cheese that we can get up to. And thankfully, they just seem to fix this with the other caves that we have in the game. Minecraft bricks, even though they were added in pretty early on in Minecraft, are not that popular with building blocks. One of the reasons for that could be the change in texture. See, if you ask me, the old brick texture was much better. In a vibrant, colorful red brick. Nowadays, you look at it and it just seems sad. At this point, I just feel like I'm using dirt with better blast resistance. And while I do think that we've seen some cool build packs where you can just these inside of actual walls to look at it's eroding away, that's not to say anything's better about the texture. Actually, it kind of says quite the opposite. But all examples have never lined up with a brick texture like this. At least they didn't downgrade that. It's really bad. And a lot of the criticism they hold against the brick's texture changes can also be said about open planes. Before the texture changes happened in Minecraft is full of 1.14, open would look very much more distinct. Nowadays, the texture's still even better defined, but it also looks blurry. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot better than the first texture for open planes. It looks pretty much a mess. I think even the original texture that Jasper tweeted out for this would have been a lot better than what we got today. It's definitely a lot easier to read. And honestly, I'm a little sad that we didn't get this. I would have just preferred not to know that it existed instead of being tempted and not getting it. Also, Minecraft is giving more recipes and uses, hence giving them more value. Minecraft's most iconic ore, Diamond, has really just stayed the exact same. I mean, one of the most notable changes for Diamond is that now you can turn it into something better. It makes it seem like we're honoring how important it is. And on to that, the fact that you're able to get diamond tools much easier through villagers than actually going and mining. Really, it seems almost more to try and go mining for some diamond ore. So if you ever wonder why diamonds don't feel special anymore, it's not because they've gotten worse, because everything around us got better by comparison. It's a rising tide and outlift for you. Surviving your first night in Minecraft used to be a real challenge. Because the early days of Minecraft, nighttime was scary. But now, as many other people have pointed out, there's just too much in Minecraft that makes this not even a threat anymore. Not that it was that much of a threat to respond about his task. Just straight down, cover yourself up, and you're fine. Look how often you're able to find villages, then find beds. You're able to instantly sleep through that scary night. You don't have to worry about it. Not to mention that the game also incentivizes you to use a bed anyway, not tough out the night. That's how annoying phantoms are. At that point, night seemed less scary, like inconvenience. In the same way that I wouldn't call traffic scary, you can't do the same for Minecraft anymore. Minecraft changed the way that its doors looked, and a lot of players were unhappy. Now I get it, the changes were made for color blindness. I don't really want to speak on so much these regular ores. We'll point out how they were trying to change ores to make them more appropriate for color blindness. The texture for the ancient debris chamber doesn't exactly pop from netherrack. I don't know. The fact that there isn't proper colorblind support options inside of Minecraft's accessibility menu anyway, that makes me feel like that would have been a way to change the textures and have a lot more players actually be happy. I will say if I have one grievance with texture changes, it's that Diamond Ore between 1.14 and 1.17 got a lot more money blurred out of its texture. Oddly enough, making it harder to read. In the transition from Minecraft 1.12 to 1.13, Mojang removed numerical IDs for a lot of features in Minecraft. This was referred to as the flattening. And if you ever wondered why a lot of technical players choose to play on 1.12, partially for this reason. Since back then, you were able to change the color of sacred concrete using complete redstone, which is pretty cool. But it's also come with helpful features like being able to have water or lava from the source, or stacked at the source, both bring those separate IDs. And I've always wanted to be able to hold a portal block in my hand like again on Bedrock. Without these numerical IDs, that's just not possible. And it's unfortunate, especially as we're able to turn on admin developer tools inside of our creative menu. We can have a debug stick and have this other stuff, is all I'm saying. As we briefly mentioned in this video, original Minecraft textures used to have bold outlines that made them pop a lot more. And it's hard to say that these original textures did look a lot more iconic. For one, they existed while the game was becoming the literal most popular game in the world. That helps to make it popular. But now, if you look at the newer textures, they're definitely a lot cleaner. I'm glad to hear out any argument that tells me that these are technically better made. But if you want no never art anymore, you got literal artists working on it. But looking better and fitting Minecraft are two different things. And so, for some of us old folks who have played it for so long, it does sometimes feel like a downgrade to look at the texture differences. So that said, some have definitely gotten better. If I were to never look at the old netherrack texture ever again, it's still a bit too soon. Outside of just the regular villager texture, the most iconic villager profession that's ever been in Minecraft is the librarian. And not this one. Sure, the book as I had is pretty funny, but it's the original long white coat texture that is synonymous with Dr. Trayaurus in Dante's DM's Minecraft series. And that was just one of the many different coats that these villagers were able to wear. Giving them a lot more color for sure. But later updates, Mojang removed this and instead gave them other accessories that made a lot more clear as to which villagers did what profession. Which I'll fully admit is a fair reasoning, but come on, Mojang was caught on this much because he was walking around with a face like this the whole time. There's nothing to be said about the old classics. Trap chests have never been that good at trapping people. For one, they have a bloody nose with texture, so if you look at it for longer than a second, you can tell that it's going to be a fake. But also, there's just better ways to trap people now. Mirrors and scope sensors make everything basically trapped, so why would you even need to use this for that? But it did used to have a use. Since in the past, the only way to be able to place chests next to each other like this was to alternate between regular and trapped chests. And it seemed like it would have been the solution until Mojang added different wood-type variants for our chests. However, we didn't get that. A much more surprising feature that we got is just the ability to place chests next to each other regardless, which is great for chests and terrible for trap chests. And for tripwire hooks. I don't really have to craft those anymore. And considering there wasn't something else that made trap chests more useful after, it's a shame that these got downgraded in such a way. In the old versions of Minecraft, it's possible that if you press the F7 key, you're able to take isometric screenshots, which are really cool to see. But such a legend, this feature doesn't exist anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times that it would glitch out into this thing type of stuff. But also, looking at the face tell me it wouldn't be cool to scroll through your feed and see your front shelf that goes in this way instead of just the regular FOV 30, full draw distance, shaders off. It would definitely stick out. And if I accidentally press this key to take a screenshot, it'd just be funnier to look back at. When I just press a screenshot with F2, it was the exact same as how I remember it. I think it is a different angle. For a long time, fishing wasn't that useful in Minecraft. But when Mojang added in the treasure loot table and things like luck to see and lure, our fishing boats got a lot more useful, which also brought along with it the ability for AFK fishing. Those are a great way to get different loot resources in the past, especially when you could use one of these to get mending enchanted books and treasure items. They eventually decided that no fans have AFK treasure on demand, and so they changed it in 1.16 for the treasure loot to only spawn here in very specific set of circumstances for the body of water. However, our farms fix this nowadays way more efficiently. The fact that I was able to memorize the design for the old fish farms is just how easy they were to build. You carry all the materials forward in just a few item slots. And so while I get it for balancing reasons, you also can't look at it and call it a downgrade. At the very least, it was a nerf.
Bone was a great thing, but it used to be so much better. Since in the past, you could immediately push across to its final stage, instead of getting a random box on your deck, which made it a lot more hilarious to spam trees at your friend's lawn, but I get why it was fixed. It definitely wasn't overpowered.
This screenshot is a little bit of Minecraft, and it's nothing to do with what's in the picture, but rather the picture itself. Since for only a brief time during Minecraft's history, there was an implementation where you were able to take 645 megapixel screenshots. And as fun to put that into perspective, a 1080p screen is 2 megapixels. An 8K screen is about 33 megapixels. This $50,000 camera might be 400 megapixels. Minecraft is still 245 bigger. That would have been a resolution of 36,550 by 17,700 pixels. Though I could only do this back in the beta versions, that might have been for good reason. Just one of these screenshots can take up 1.8 gigabytes of space. Most of the time, it continues to work. Now, I'm not saying I want to take screenshots that are that big. I think I have the opportunity to take super high resolution screenshots in-game. It's such an awesome feature. Remember just being able to change our screenshot resolution anyway. Much in the same way you can't do with replay mod, that would be a welcome return. That's the power back to players' hands instead of accidentally filling up their hard drive with press the F2 key. In a brief period between Minecraft 1.9 and 1.10, there existed a bug called piston translocation, which is that if a piston arm extended into you and then retracted, it could pull you up through the piston. Which when that existed allowed for some incredibly fast and impressive elevators. I mean, really, the way that slightly manipulate entities is pretty impressive, but now it just doesn't work the same. Not only was the bug patched out, but now if you have a piston pushing down, it pushes you into crawling. And I think having some way for this feature to return would be really cool. Maybe we can take it out to this Reddit post and say that it should be a translocator block. I don't know, nothing big.
Back in 1.3, we could print to 60 calories this fall. Now, thanks to instant cramming, that maxes out at 24. Which is a shame we're trying to make it efficient farm, but it's definitely a lot more humane.
The last one of the tough golem might not have won the mob vote, but they are still in Minecraft.
Because in Bedrock Edition, there was a special free skin pack that was added in that would let you choose between different clothings for 12 different skins, including the Rascal, the Sniffer, and the Tough Girl.
So it's a far cry from the mobs actually being in the game, but it's a lot better than some of the other mob voters got, so I guess you take what you get.
Back in version 1.3, Flint used to look 3D, and if you studied it closely, you could see that the